Hello everyone, my name is Amber. Welcome back to my channel, Amber Reads Romance. Today I'm here with my weekly wrap-up. I'm going to be going over all the books that I read this last week, and I just finished doing our live buddy read show and filming a couple videos, so my voice is kind of losing it. So I'm going to try and make this video as quick as I can. Fingers crossed, we know how I talk, but let's go ahead and quickly dive into my weekly reads. Okay guys, so I am gonna try to make this a really quick video because my voice is kind of a little scratchy and irritated right now. So I may go quickly through some of these. We shall see how quick I do it. But anyways, let's get started because I have 9 books to talk about. So I did have a very productive week this week, was excellent, read a lot of books for me. So that was fantastic. So let's go ahead and get started. The first one that I'm going to bring up, I'm not going to talk too much about because this is the 3rd book. It is the last book in that Pam Godwin Tangled Lies trilogy, which is a trilogy about a love triangle basically. And I've already talked about the other books previously, and obviously I can't say much here. I am going to be posting my vlog, which will have spoilers and in-depth thoughts probably later this week. I'm hoping for later this week because I've been really behind in posting my vlogs. But anyways, this is 3 is a War. And again, this is between Cole, Trace, and Danny. And Danny is, was with Cole before. She thought he died. She fell in love with Trace, and then Cole came back. And the second book dealt with them all trying to figure out how is she going to pick them. She was kind of dating both of them. That one ended on a cliffhanger. This one picked up right where it left off. And I can't really say anything because it is the 3rd book and it'll give things away. So if you want more info, watch that vlog because it'll go into everything deep. But I will tell you what I felt about it. I really loved this and I got emotional for a period because I have my favorite, which I bring up in my vlog. And I thought she wasn't going to choose him for a minute. And I was getting really pissed. And so I started to get kind of emotional and upset. But she chose my man. She chose my man. So I was so happy. And I think Pam Godwin really did a good job with letting you feel empathy for Danny because she is in a really tough situation, but it's really hard sometimes to empathize with the heroine when she's trying to pick between 2 men, and they're both amazing. So that's the thing, is it doesn't make one of them a bad guy or have, whatever. They're both amazing. They're both obsessed with her. They both are in love with her and will do anything for her. So how are you supposed to make that choice? So it's a very complicated situation. And so I think Pam Godwin really does take you on an interesting journey. Now, I did give the previous book 4 stars because I did feel like it was a filler book. I still do think that this could have just been a duet, but I do think it's a really good trilogy for a love triangle because I'm not a fan of love triangles and I loved this. So I ended up giving this last book 5 stars. And I think I gave it 3.5 chilies. There's a lot of spice. There's couple insane sex scenes in this one that were very interesting. So I definitely recommend it if you are willing to deal with a love triangle and some toxic behavior, and your guy might not get choosed. I don't know, but the guy that doesn't get choosed is going to get his happily ever after in the Deliver series. So I will be going back to the Deliver series next month. Finally, I'm getting to that so I can hopefully get to his romance. So anyways, all right. So then I listened to the Irresistible Miss Peppiwell, which is such an interesting title, by Stacy Reid. And this is the 2nd book in the Scandalous House of Clayton. And this one was on the Read and Listen for free, so you can get that. I don't think the 3rd book is for some reason, which kind of irritated me. I'll have to double check. But these are really quick, spicy historical romance novellas, basically. This one is between Lord Anthony and Philippa. And she is actually a American heroine. She had some drama in her past, and she trusted a guy that she shouldn't have. So she's pretty cold and closed off and doesn't want to get married, and is just, she does not like, she's in London and she does not like the way how snobby they are and their class differences and all the stuff that goes into, you know, being a woman in that kind of environment. So she's not about it. But she captures Anthony's attention. Like, he becomes obsessed with her, really wants to be with her. And, you know, so he's pursuing her pretty hard. She's basically called the Ice Maiden because she's so cold and closed off. Another guy is like pursuing her hard, and he's creepy and pushing like where he shouldn't be, trying to get involved with her. So there's a little suspense element involved in there as well. So, I mean, there's not a lot to say about this. It was a really quick, spicy time, listened to in one sitting. It was really good. So I ended up giving that one 4 stars and 2.5 chilies. I was kind of annoyed because it did bring up him having like spicy, extra spicy stuff that he would do with his mistresses, like bondage or maybe spanking or these types of things. But then they never did that together. So I was like, why did we even bring it up? But whatever. So the next book that I read was actually one that I won because this was one of Jen from the Book Refuge. I'm on her Patreon and I'm one of her patrons, and she does like a patron exclusive review every month. And so she'll annotate it and then do a drawing, and then one of us gets it. So I actually got this one, and it was a quick, it was a novella, but it's like actually pretty emotional and moving, and it's an MMF. So I ended up reading The Escorts Tale by MJ Edwards. I've never read this author before. I don't know if they have a ton of other books that I thought of, that I thought she mentioned they don't really have a lot. But I really loved this. It was very endearing and sweet for it being like about an escort. So in this we have, I think it's Jasper. Yeah, Jasper. And he goes by JD to his clients. So obviously they don't know his name. He's bisexual. He went into the military and kind of like out of the military, didn't know what to do. He's very good looking. And decided to, he kind of fell into this escorting, and he does have specific clients. He works with couples and does a lot of stuff with couples. So he ends up getting like a referral. One of his clients refers this married couple to him. And this is, I think her name was Alethea, and her husband, Nick. And their situation is very sad because Nick was this vibrant, like, adventurous kind of guy, and he ended up falling or having a bad accident in a rock climbing accident, and he is paraplegic. He can't move. He's in a wheelchair, and so he actually is able to still get, you know, a hard on or whatever, but he doesn't feel anything. So he feels very disconnected from sex and doesn't really want to do it. He feels like he's just kind of getting used. It's very uncomfortable, complicated situation for him. But he wants his wife to still experience sex and enjoy sex. And lately he just can't enjoy it and appreciate it. So they kind of came to an agreement where they would get an escort, but she wants her husband involved in some way because she doesn't want it to be her just separately hooking up with somebody. So he's very nervous because this is a very complicated situation. It's kind of, you know, these two are so in love. They're very, like, have such a strong foundation, but this has changed their whole lives, and it's been very complicated for them. So he kind of steps in and starts to have a sexual relationship. He kind of brings in the husband in a way, like where the husband's telling him what to do, and there's just different things that go into their sexual relationship. And her husband was straight, so he didn't think that, he thought that was a no-go. He's very attracted to the husband, but like the husband starts to get really Nick gets turned on by this whole situation, and he finally gets like sexual gratification where he feels like he's having an orgasm when he's involved, and when he was like kind of slightly touching Jasper. And so he starts to kind of want to be involved more, and they really fall for like JD. They keep pulling him into their relationship. They just feel like a deeper connection to him, but he's very worried about falling for these people and then like being the escort and like what does that entail. So what I will say for this is it has a lot of spice. It was great. Even there's some funny like crazy spice scenes with his other clients in the beginning of this book that was pretty crazy. But what I will say is I love the dynamic between them. I love the open communication. They really worked through talking through their relationship, what they're comfortable with, all sharing, all like having individual dates. So they're working on each of their relationships separately too. So I just really loved all that. That's some of my favorite stuff with MMF or poly relationships. It's just very beautiful. So I ended up giving this one 5 stars and then 4 chilies. Okay, so the next one that I have is actually our buddy Reid. If you are interested, I will try to remember to link it, but if I don't, it's on Bestie Book Reviews channel. You can always go over there and watch our live show. It already filmed today, but you can always go over there and head over there for our more in-depth thoughts. But we read Finding Home by Lauren Rowe, and this was my first Lauren Rowe book. So this is a rock star romance. But it has and like a single dad, but it's a lot more than that. So in this, we have a drummer. He's like of a big band. His name's Caleb. He goes by C-Bomb. And he had gotten a girl pregnant, kind of like a groupie. And he really wasn't ready to be a father. So he kind of just like didn't want custody, didn't want anything to do with it. And but he financially supports her and gives her any money or whatever she needs. He eventually felt really guilty about this. His mom was dying of cancer, and he really wanted his mom to be able to meet his daughter. And so he tried reaching out to the mother to try and, set that up, maybe change their agreement and try to be a part of his daughter's life. But she basically told him, F off, don't want you around my daughter. Well, in the beginning of this, he's actually at a rehab. It's a court-appointed rehab. He's not been in a good place. He has addiction. He's kind of a mess. And he finds out that the mother actually died in an accident. And so now his daughter is, kind of basically living with his, the mom's best friend. And that is Aubrey. And so Aubrey has basically kind of raised his daughter. She's about 2 years old. And has been raising her with like her parents help out and all of that kind of stuff. And she is taking care of her. But now, like, the mother's father, who, like, is a horrible human being and had molested her and just horrible things, he wants custody of this granddaughter now out of nowhere. So basically, like, Caleb wants to pick up everything and go be with his daughter, build a relationship with her, and try and get custody of her. The problem is he has that court-appointed rehab that he has to do. So they do agree that he could go do that with special circumstances. But basically, Aubrey has to agree to be his, like, sobriety coach. So she ends up having to, like, live with him and keep him, on the straight and narrow. And he's trying to slowly build this relationship with his daughter. And so I really liked that the daughter read like a 2-year-old and that she didn't immediately just, like, fall for him. It took him work to try and build this relationship with his daughter. Now, Aubrey had a different view because of what she assumed her friend, like, she didn't know that he tried to step in and be a father again after like the 6 months. So she never knew that happened. So she really had a bad view of him going in. But once she learns the truth, she feels really bad about that and then really wants to help him be a part of his daughter's life. So they're kind of in a forced proximity. They have a lot of sexual chemistry. They're really into each other, but they kind of have to keep it secret if they do get involved because of the court and getting, custody and all of that. So I enjoyed this. I did have an issue with like the first sex that they have, because like, I don't know if I want to give that away, but like their first sex just kind of came out of nowhere to the point where I thought it was like the guy having a sex dream, and it was like actually not a sex dream. It was really happening, and it just kind of threw me off. So that kind of lowered it a little bit. I thought the third act suspense, like with the grandfather, was just a little over the top. But I really enjoyed the writing. I ended up listening to this on audiobook, and let me see. Yeah, I had duet narration by Sean Masters and Andy Arndt. There was like drums involved because he's a drummer. It was really, really well done. So I did really enjoy the audiobook. There was just a couple things that didn't really work for me. I wanted a little bit more of a slow burn and then gradual to them hooking up, not the way the sex actually unfolded. If you want to know more about what that sex is, go to the live show because I go into it there. But I don't want to give everything away here. So anyways, I gave this one 4 stars and then 2.5 chilies. Okay, so then I listened to Resisting Maxu. This is the 6th book in the Caucanian series. I ended up buying a bunch of these on Audible when we had an Audible sale going on. I love this series. It's a great alien romance. I mean, if you want an alien romance where they're not super alien, they're pretty much humanoid, like they're very human. And they're really fun. So I would definitely check that out. In this one, we have Maxu and Meg. And Meg is like the only human that really didn't want to go back to her old life. She was kind of forced from like the religious community and her family to get married because she had kind of fooled around with the guy. And so she was forced into this marriage with him. And it was a very unhappy marriage. She was miserable. It was toxic. It just wasn't good. And so she was happy when she got this new start because she could be free. She could be who she wanted to be. And so she doesn't really want to mate. She doesn't want to be, you know, found because, again, in the series, they are discovering their fated mates. And so she doesn't want anything about that. I mean, she says if it happens, it happens. She is actually doing this tour with a bunch of the other humans because they're showing them around other planets because it's being discovered that these humans share like their genes and that they can have their fated mates or, you know, obviously have children and procreate and all of that, which they've had a lot of issues. And so they're traveling all the planets and learning all of that. Before she goes on this, she is basically scented by Maxu. Maxu doesn't want anything to do with the matings. He always gets himself like arrested so he doesn't have to do those whole where the woman does the choosing thing because the woman gets to do the choosing and it's a whole different thing, but I'm not going to go into it all. But he always gets himself arrested so he doesn't have to do it. And so he's actually getting arrested for this and he recognizes his mate. He scents her. He knows it's his mate. He gets the markings on his arms, but they still lock him up because he has to face responsibility for his actions. And so once he gets out, he's basically kind of chasing down this tour to try and catch up to Meg. So when the mates are kept away from each other, it is brutal on the men. Obviously the aliens, like they feel it more, the mating connection because of their whole dynamic, their mate, you know, DNA and everything compared to the humans. So it is brutal for him. So when he gets there, he's a little possessive, a little like you're mine. And she's not too happy about it. So they kind of clash at first. She doesn't want anything to do with him, but he slowly starts to get advice from the other humans and try to woo her. And they had some really good kinky times in here. I mean, there was some like restraint, metallic, like magnetic restraints that go on the neck and like things where she was like stuck to the walls or floor. Anyways, it got spicy. But I really liked this one. It had a crazy cliffhanger that I won't bring up, but it's definitely going to change what's going on in the series. And so that one I did not expect. So it definitely had a crazy cliffhanger. So I do want to get to the next one soon because I am intrigued. So I ended up giving that one 5 stars and 2.5 chilies. Again, Stephen Dexter narrates all these and he's one of my favorite narrators. He does this amazing like growly, grumpy voice as Maxu and it's just hot. I love Stephen Dexter. He's fantastic. Okay, so then I read The Sweetest, Agony by Victoria Loom. So I am trying to read Victoria Loom's backlist. I am on her ARC team. And I kind of thought it was like one of my goals at the beginning of the year was to go back and read her first series because she's only really been writing for a couple years, I believe. But I haven't read her whole previous first series. I read the last book in that series because I got an ARC for it. So I went back to the very first one. This is the first book in the LA Heart series. And this is a childhood friends to lovers, an unrequited love book. And it is definitely agony. I'll tell you, it is tough because in this we have James and Jess. And Jess and James, they've been best friends. They're super close, but James has been in love with her since they were kids, definitely in high school even more, and she is clueless. She has no idea he's in love with her. She always just refers to him as her best friend. And even at points where she refers to him as like her older brother, it's fucking brutal because we know that James is obsessed with her, in love with her, doesn't care about anybody else. He just wants Jess. But the times that he was going to try and make a move, he would overhear her say these type of things. So he was just kind of like waiting for the right time. But she ends up getting like boyfriends. He ended up like moving away. And so then he went to a different college away from her. So, but they've been like, so it's been almost like 13, 14 years, I feel like, of him in love with her and her oblivious. And so that's really hard for me to read. You know, Friends to Lovers is really hard for me. I think Victoria's writing was really good. It has definitely improved with each book she's written, I think, but the writing wasn't an issue. It was the story. It was the heroine that drove me nuts in this, because how can you be that clueless when everyone around you knows he's in love with you? It's obvious he's in love with you, and she just never got it. And it was just heartbreaking to see James suffer for years and years. It's just, and they were close where they always FaceTimed and talked, even though they lived in different places. Like he lived in London for years, and now he is back because he wants to get her back. Like, not back, he wants to win her over. But she just broke, like she was with her boyfriend still when he moved back, and then they break up, and then now her friends are trying to get her to do online dating, and they like bring up, oh, he should be your like dating coach. So he offers to do this because he just wants to win her over and show her how good it could be with them. But this chick is clueless. Now, she suffers from severe anxiety, like an anxiety disorder that I think she wasn't really properly treating, but Victoria does a good job of representing anxiety and those kind of conditions, and she does end up getting good help, and I love that therapy was included in this book. But for me, it was a struggle because reading her, like, constantly not acknowledging, like, you know, his love for her. And then when they have like a one bed situation on a vacation and things get like sexual, it's like, you know, all of a sudden now she's just noticing him that way. That kind of irked me a little bit. Now, I am kind of partial to Victoria, so I did rate this a little bit nicer probably because I was feeling a 3.5. But I ended up giving it 4 stars because I thought the writing was good. I loved the side characters. I can tell you I am excited for the rest of the series because I liked her friends a lot more than I did this character. I just didn't really relate to her, but the hero was fantastic. I mean, talk about your cinnamon roll hero. This guy is beautiful, beautiful. So that's what makes it so hard, is like how sweet this guy is. And, you know, he had to suffer for so many years. But anyways, so I ended up giving this one the 4 stars and 2.5 chilies. Okay, so then I listened to an ALC. I listened to Reckless Obsession by Deborah Garland. This is Astoria Royals. It said standalone, so I think it's like kind of an offshoot of the Astoria Royals one. But it says Astoria Royals standalone number 1. So I don't know. But this is between Owen and Jillian, and this is Irish Mafia again here. He's one of the other brothers of that series, and this was pretty crazy. I'm not going to go too deep into it, but it is heavily smut. Like, it's so much smut. Like, the previous book that I listened to hers, like, I don't know if it was this month or last month. I think it might have been this month. Was so much better. Like, it had a better story, all of that kind of stuff. This is heavily like erotic romance, heavily like constant sex scenes, and so that kind of brought it down a little bit for me. But in this we have Jillian. She is a lawyer. This is set in Vegas, where actually Owen goes out there to try and get his brother off of, you know, a crime that he committed. Her brother is also, I think, like, another lawyer that was in charge. So he ends up making a deal with her brother type of situation. This was supposed to be helping her career to go after this case, but they make a deal and he gets his brother off. So they kind of end up having interaction after this whole thing and having a one-night stand. Now, Jillian was a 30-year-old virgin, which is always, I don't know. Like, I don't know how you get to, and no offense to anybody, this is you, but I don't know how you go to 30 years old and never have sex. Like, that seems, whew. So she's a 30-year-old virgin. He ends up popping her cherry. They have a kinky, fun time. They get after it pretty aggressively. And now she is like sex crazed. She's all about the sex. Like, she went 30 years without having sex. And now she wants the sex, wants the sex, wants the sex. But she can't have sex with him and be in a relationship with him. So he's staying in town because of, he's helping that lawyer with like another crime family that's like their enemy. And so he's kind of staying in town. She has to help him out kind of with that case a little bit. And he becomes obsessed, starts stalking her. He's got like cameras in her room. He's hacked this. She decides to join a dating site to try and hook up with a stranger instead of hooking up with him. And so he doesn't want that. So he hacks into it, makes a profile. And so he's that guy. And it just seemed a little crazy that she went 30 years without having sex, has sex, then all of a sudden wants to meet up with a stranger, have him wear a mask, do kind of a CNC situation where she's literally going to meet this guy in the middle of nowhere, like in desert location, and have him just like knock on her window and screw her. That's a little bit of an escalation from no sex. Like, and nobody knows where you're at. You didn't share your location with anybody. This guy could fucking kill you. It just was just a little unbelievable. But he shows up in his mask. They have crazy sex. And so now she's having sexual relationship with this guy on the app and then also seeing him in person. And he wants her. There's suspense elements, mafia stuff going on. But basically, 80% of this book is sex. So that's kind of where we're at here. So I didn't fully love it. I would say it's probably a 3.5, but I rounded it up to 4 because it's an ALC. And the ALC was really well, the narration was really well done. So that kind of elevated it a little bit more for me because the Irish accent that both the narrators did was amazing. So this is narrated by Erin Shedlock and Stella Hunter. And they both were doing that Irish accent. You know, she had to do it when she was voicing his lines, and it was fantastic. So I think the narration was really good. The audiobook was good. It was just a little too much smut for me. If that's what you want, you'll love this. There's tons of smut, and you'll have a good time. So I think he does like somnophilia with her. There's like tons of stuff in this. So anyways, 4 stars being nice, and then 4 chilies. Okay, so then I read an arc. I read Savage by Cala Riley. I've never read this duo before. I've seen Daniela always post stuff about them, so I really wanted to try and give this author a go. So this is actually the first book in the MC San Antonio series, and this is between Savage, his real name is Hayes, and Bailey. And they were like childhood best friends. So they were best friends. Obviously, they both were pining after each other as teens. But he ends up leaving at like 17 and breaking her heart. He had to like get out. He didn't want to be part of the MC. And he ended up joining the military. And she really felt like he just abandoned her. And she was devastated. And so that was like cut off all contact with them after that. And so now it's years later and her best friend's brother has gone missing, and she's actually a PI. Her father had a PI company and she's kind of like running it because he got too sick to do it. And she is trying to investigate and find this missing brother. She does get a lead that he had some kind of ties to somebody in this, MC. And so she goes to Savage to ask for help. And so now you have these two people that were like really in love with each other. They felt like they were soulmates. They never actually got together when they were younger, so it's not fully second chance, but kind of second chance vibes. But at first, he's just like doesn't want her in his life because she's a complication. She's this tornado whirlwind, but she's really feisty. The thing is, she came off feisty and badass, but also very vulnerable and sweet and like not like that over annoying badass heroine type of character. So I really liked that. She ends up getting his help and they start working together on this, and they really talk early on, which I appreciated, not having this constant animosity towards each other over like the previous hurts. They finally talk it out and realize there's so much more for them and they don't want to put off them anymore. And so they do like start to get together. But then you have a suspense element coming in because now somebody's like kind of stalking her. She doesn't know if it's tied to the missing brother, what is going on here. And so he definitely needs to step in even more to protect her. So this was really sweet. I thought it was super sweet. They were very like, he's such a cinnamon roll like hero. So it was a very sweet romance for MC romance. So I don't know, I've never read this author before. Maybe she writes sweeter MCs, which is definitely valid. Like we need more of those. I love the side characters, especially Loyal. Like I want his book. So I'm definitely going to continue with this series. So I ended up giving this one 4.5 stars and 2 chilies. It didn't fully go the 5-star for me because, you know, it was kind of like, I don't know, it was good, but it didn't blow me away type of thing. So I definitely enjoyed it. Okay, so the last book that I read was Devil of Downtown by Joanna Shupe. I actually just bought this series, so I have these copies because you know I loved the first 2. The last one I gave 6 stars. This one was kind of a little disappointing to me. It's still a really good read. It's still Joanna Shupe. It's still wonderful historical romance. It just didn't live up to what I expected, and you know, I had an issue with it. So in this, we have Jack Mulligan, and he is he was introduced in the previous one. He's kind of like the crime lord kind of guy. He runs a lot of like gambling dens and like, you know, all this stuff going on, I think, and like fighting rings, and he's just basically like, you know, into crime. And then we have Justine, and she's the younger sister of the heroines from the previous book. And she is basically like the do-gooder. She has been, her big thing that she's been doing is trying to locate missing husbands, these deadbeat dads that basically abandoned their wife and their kids. And now their wife and kids like have no money, no support, and they're just off doing whatever they want. And the police and people don't really do anything. They consider that a marriage issue and a family issue. And so she is trying to locate these men to make them do what's right. And so she is actually looking for one husband, and he had worked for Mulligan. And so she shows up to his club or whatever and is asking for his help. He offers his help, but it's kind of in exchange for a favor. He doesn't just give things for free. And him and her kind of butt heads, and he like loves how strong and feisty she is. She considers herself like the plain sister, but he definitely starts to get attracted to her as they start to work together on these issues. She does have to give him a favor, and he wants her to like take him to this party, one of those high society events, so that he could corner a guy who's trying to get to do business with him. So it's kind of them working together and all of that. Now, I will say it just kind of was really slow for me. The beginning was very slow. I wasn't as into it. I really loved Mulligan in the previous book, and so I was kind of let down a little bit. I still loved his character in this one, but it kind of annoyed me was we had a third act breakup that I didn't really enjoy. It felt like it was just kind of thrown in there. It felt like it didn't even need to happen. And I'm kind of sick of these women making their men give up their criminal pursuits. Like the guy in the previous book, he ended up giving away his like gambling den and his casino and stuff for his woman, you know, and she doesn't want him to do like crime, and he's going to corrupt her and her good deeds and, you know, what she's doing if he does that. And it's like, well, you knew who he was when you got involved with him. Anyway, so that kind of annoyed me. That was like my main drawback for this book. but it was still a very decent read. I listened to this on any play and it was very good. So I ended up giving this one 4 stars and 2.5 chilies. Okay, so those are all the books that I read. Sorry, I'm trying to rush through this, but my voice is going. Thank you so much for watching this. As always, please make sure you hit that subscribe button. Leave me a like, comment down below. I appreciate all your guys' support, and I will see you guys on the next one.